Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I was messing around on my modular the other night and I came up with this. Kind of a random sequence. The tone and timbre kind of changes with every hit. And to do this, I don't think it was easy. It took me a while because you have to, number one, come up with a random sequence that has different timings, and then you have to modulate different parameters to get things to change, and it's a lot, but still, sounds great. And as I was doing it, I was thinking to myself, okay, how do we do this in software? Because as you can hear, the timing is varied. And with sequencers that we use, Stepic and Waymaker, it's really hard to kind of uncouple the timing from, the actual clock or the BPM of your track. But with a sequencer like Harmony Bloom that's laid out completely differently, where all of a sudden the spacing between the notes gets kind of blurred with a traditional sequencer, it becomes a little easier, but you still have the problem of okay, how do I modulate my software synthesizer to do that? So it changes, it kind of warps the sound a little bit with every single hit, and we're quantized. So anyway, I thought we would just make a little video on how to recreate this with Harmony Bloom and various synthesizers. I found 3 synthesizers that I use on the channel all the time that can actually do this. Number 1, Serum 2. Number 2, Pigments 6. And of course, Vital. So I'm gonna show you how to do this with all 3 examples so you guys can use this technique in your own productions. And then from here, this isn't the final result. This is just the beginning. Because when I listen to this, I get inspired. I'm like, wow, there's more music to uncover there. And I start thinking of more possibilities of things that I could add. And this could just be the basis of the track. So anyway, that's the game plan. Hopefully you guys are ready for this. And yeah, thanks for being here. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first things first, we're gonna set up Harmony Bloom, and then from there, we're gonna use that instance of Harmony Bloom to drive all 3 synths. Now, I wanna make it clear here at the beginning that the end result that we come up with doesn't have to be the end of your track, when in fact, it's actually at the beginning. So just because we're making a randomized sequence doesn't mean that that's the end result. You can use that randomized sequence to go in any other direction that you choose. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up here. I'm gonna grab Harmony Bloom. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, you've probably never seen me do this before, but if you've ever seen this, I'm gonna go over it one more time. So let's go set our root and our scale here. I'll set the scale to pentatonic minor. I'll set the note collection to minor up here. Now, I wanna make sure that it's synced, so I'll use the sync button down here in the bottom left. And I'll also set the speed offset to the max. That's very important. That means that the inner ring is moving faster than the outer ring, which is gonna cause some overlapping of the notes, which is what we want. Okay, I'll adjust the free offset and the even offset. That's gonna change because our sequence will change. I'll adjust the number of notes to around 64. Let's go ahead and adjust this one more time. There we go. I'll also increase the note duration to around 5, and I'll set the loop length to 32. Okay, now the final thing you want to adjust is the note minimum and note maximum. By default, this is locked, so you can unlock it by pressing the chain link button right here. I'll go ahead and set this to C1, and then I'll set the note max to around, say, C4. That looks good. Okay, excellent. And I'll adjust the velocity. Maybe we'll use that later. Okay, now when I hit play, you're gonna hear that we don't hear anything because we haven't told Harmony Bloom to drive any of the synthesizers yet. You can add a couple more trigger bars here by just clicking on the dots on the outer ring, and that's gonna be our sequence. All right, cool. We'll come back to this in just a second. So now let's set up Serum 2. Now, the most important part about Serum 2 is that you get the LFO right. Setting the LFO to drive different destinations is exactly what we're gonna do here. So I'm gonna pick a wavetable. It doesn't really matter what wavetable you pick. I'll pick, say, from the digital file. Let's go to Morpheus. That looks good. And we're gonna set up our LFO. You can also set up your envelope here. It can really be whatever you want. I'm gonna lower the sustain all the way down, and I'll change the decay to around 3 seconds. That looks good. Okay, cool. We can also turn on the filter here. Maybe I'll add another envelope, take the sustain out of it, and adjust the decay to around, say, 4 seconds or so. And we'll drag that over to the cutoff. By default, it comes in as bipolar. So Shift-Alt-Click on Windows or Option-Shift on a Mac. Okay, so now with the LFO, it's important to set a sample and hold LFO. What is that? It's sort of a randomized LFO. But here's the most important thing. If I click sample and hold, you can see that it comes default as free running. We don't want that. We want it to retrig, and we don't want to press the mono button because we want it to be polyphonic. So every single note that comes in, it's going to change the value. Now, the other important setting here is to switch to hertz, and then you can set the rate all the way to nothing or frozen, which is really important because we want that sort of, randomized value to sit there until we get a new note, which is exactly what we're trying to do here. Okay, cool. So we can use this LFO on the wavetable position here, and we'll use that right there. Maybe we'll pick some warp modes. I'm gonna use, say, the alt warp. We'll go with bend plus minus. That's cool, we can use that there. All right, and yeah, let's go ahead and maybe set up, actually, let's add a second oscillator here, and we'll change it from analog to the BD sign, and we'll turn it off, and we'll use that as the phase distortion. So phase distortion, PD is coming from B, and we'll use LFO1 here and drag it over to the handle, and there we go. So now we have sort of a randomized sequence here because what's gonna happen is Harmony Bloom's gonna give it some notes, and every single time we're gonna get a new value out of that LFO. I'll show you exactly what I mean here. All right, so let's go ahead and set this up. Now I'm gonna get out of the way. I'm in Ableton. Your guys' DAW may differ, but here in Ableton, I've got to set the MIDI in to Harmony Bloom. And I also have to set it to the plugin here, Harmony Bloom, and then leave it on in and make sure it's on record mode. So now when I hit play, you can hear that we've got some notes. And it kind of sounds like what I came up with on the modular, right? The timing is different. The timbre is different, right? That filter opens up. That's cool, I like that. All right, maybe we can use the LFO on the filter itself. That might be cool. All right, nice. So you can hear the potential in this. There's lots of different directions that we could go from here. Let's turn up some reverb. Oh yeah. I like that. Because every single time we're getting a new perspective. It's multi-dimensional. And this is something, like I said, it'd be really hard for you to either draw on these notes by hand or use like Step-Pick and tie the notes together. Traditional sequencers don't work like this. But with Harmony Bloom, oh yeah. Now notice that the inner ring, like I said, the inner ring is moving faster than the outer ring, which is changing the pattern, okay? We're going from this nautilus shape and it's gonna eventually unwind itself, become something else. But because we're moving so slowly and we have multiple trigger bars, you're just hearing these notes in time and in space. Fair enough? I like that. That sounds really good. So again, the key here, make sure that your sample and hold LFO is set to 0. Okay, so it's frozen, it's in polyphonic mode, and it's in retrig. And then from there, you could do whatever. We could even set the LFO to adjust the decay value. That's something you can do. So either it gets longer or shorter. I'll make it longer. Love that. And it's all about balance, right? Finding a nice balance between the modulations that you're doing, the filter amount, the reverb amount. We didn't even touch the effects, but you hear like, okay. Now again, we still have, the noise oscillator here, the third oscillator, the third main oscillator, outstanding. Just trying to show you guys the potential here. It's huge. So anyway, let's leave this going, and let's now set up Pigments the same way. And I'll show you 2 ways you can use in Pigments to do the same thing, all right? So with Pigments, you have 2 options here. Normally you think, oh yeah, I'm just gonna use the envelopes or whatever. Even the LFOs, like you might wanna think, okay, I'll use the LFOs. And that's cool, but there's a better way, all right? There's a better way. Let's pause this track for now. And what I'll do is I'll grab a waveform. Let's grab one of these basic waves. I'll grab like the rounded saw. That's always good. We'll set it to the 2D view. And we'll use a LFO just for this first example. You have a randomized LFO here. You can set the rate to something really slow, okay? And the retrace source can be left on poly keyboard. Now that's cool. You can do that. However, I'll show you the better way, all right? The better way is to use a random, okay? The random, you have 3 randoms. They can all be the same. They're set up, differently by default. We have Turing, sample and hold, and binary. We actually want just the random, okay? The random is gonna be what we're gonna use. And we're also gonna set the rate to freeze, which is what we did in Serum 2 to get, frozen output, all right? And the retrace source can be, say, poly keyboard, okay? That's cool. So every time we get a new note, it's waiting to get a note, and then it's gonna change values, okay? So let's use random 1 on the position here. That's cool. We'll use, say, that also on the FM frequency mod here, and maybe on the fold mod itself, okay? We'll turn on the filter, and we'll set it to, say, 12. And we'll use, let's use an envelope here. So we'll set up our envelopes. I'm gonna take the sustain all the way out. Decay can go to 3 seconds. Second envelope can go a little bit longer. There we go. We'll drag it up to the cutoff filter. And that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead, and now we will solo this track, and I'll go ahead and set the input to Harmony Bloom. There we go. And let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like. Perfect. All right. Turn up some reverb. There we go. Very similar, right? But again, we got to that result very quickly because we know where to look. Okay? You gotta freeze a random and then use that random in any spot that you choose. But I just love how, this technique kind of creates this feeling of like musicality, infinite possibilities. Like that's really cool. You can see our wave shape is changing here because I use the random on the fold mod. Absolutely lovely. Really, really great. Okay. Finally, we're gonna use Vital, because for those of you who just have free synths, I thought I might throw this in there, all right? Here's Vital with the custom anomaly for skin. And let's go ahead and set this up, okay? I'll put this on pause for now, and maybe we'll use all 3 at the end. Wouldn't that be cool? All right, so let's go ahead and grab a wavetable here. I'm gonna grab Drink the Juice. That's always a good one to use. And what I'm gonna do is set up our envelopes the same way. So we'll go ahead and lower the sustain all the way down, make the decay around, say, 3 seconds. And we'll use a second envelope, and we'll use that on the filter. So I'll make a 4-second decay on the filter, and I'll drag this over to the cutoff slider. That's looking good. And what we're gonna do here is instead of using the LFOs, we're actually gonna use the randoms. Now, very important here to set the mode properly. So we want to set the mode to sample and hold, okay? And the tempo, if you drag all the way down, it's gonna turn it into a freeze sample and hold, which is what we just did in Serum 2 and in Pigments, all right? So you want it to freeze, okay? So we'll use this random on, say, the wavetable position here. We'll put in some spectral distortion modes here. We'll go with that, there we go. And maybe we'll use, say, FM from oscillator 2. We'll turn on oscillator 2 and set it to basic shapes. And we'll turn it all the way down, and we'll use that as the random amount here. Okay, looking good. All right, so let's go ahead and set up our reverb here, and we'll go ahead and hit play and hear what this sounds like. Very nice. Let's add our random to the filter here as well. So, you can hear, oh yeah, like that's maybe the best of all 3 of them. With that FM amount coming from the second oscillator, like I love that. So you can hear with all 3 examples, Serum 2, Pigment 6, and now with Vital. It's really a very simple technique. Just using a frozen sample and hold on several different destinations. But the power of that combine it with Harmony Bloom. That gets me really inspired because Harmony Bloom could be whatever. It could be any key that you choose. It could be any scale that you choose. There's a bunch of them in here. Sometimes harmonic minor sounds great, melodic minor sounds great. You know, minor seventh, anything. And think of this as the sort of initial backdrop, if you will. If you were painting, this would be the first couple colors that you lay on the canvas. And then from there, that's where your journey can begin. So, anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and create a pad to go along with this so you guys can see how this would just be the start of your track. All right, so let's create a pad from scratch. I'm gonna use Serum 2 for this example. And first things first here, let's adjust our wavetable. So we'll use a Serum 2 wavetable. I don't know, maybe we'll use something like the Mother 32. It's always a good one. And we'll increase the unison amount to like 5. Lower down the detune, and we'll come into the unison menu by clicking on the gear right here and lower down the width to around 50%. Okay, let's adjust our envelope number 1 here. Make it around 3 seconds, decay around the same. Lower the sustain down, up the release, very good. Okay, now let's go ahead, maybe we'll add like a alt warp here. We'll go with, ooh, how about mirror? That might be cool. That might be interesting. And what we'll do here is we'll add a wavetable and we'll make this a basic shapes and leave that as a sawtooth. And we'll put both of these oscillators through filter number 1 by clicking A and B right here, okay? And yeah, let's go ahead and add some reverb and delay here. And we'll see what this sounds like just with a couple simple moves here. Oh yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. So you can see it's almost like greater than the sum of its parts, right? Oh my gosh. Drifting and floating already. Let's go ahead and randomize an LFO here. Make a sample and hold LFO. We'll smooth it all the way out and we'll lower down the rate to say 2 bars. And we'll drag this over to the cutoff filter and hit Shift Alt Click or Option Shift on a Mac. And yeah, let's see what this sounds like. Little filter moving here. Oh yeah. Very nice. But you can hear how the randomized sequence is sort of embellishing what we just laid down. So the pad sort of brings consistency where the randomized sequence just brings melodic, I don't know, unpredictability, if you will. Oh, absolutely love that. Listen to this. Very nice, very nice. That sounds so good. I mean, just listen to that. And just for fun, let's hear what all 3 sound like with the pad. Check this out. Oh my gosh. Amazing. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully some of the techniques that I showed you today can actually be applied to your own music, because like I said, this is just the beginning of your journey. From here, sky's the limit. Love it. I'll be back again soon with more videos like this one. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to learn more, I am on Patreon. I do videos like this every single week. And there's tons of great people over there. We got our own Discord community. And I do one-on-one coaching. So all the information is linked down below in the description. And yeah, take good care, you guys. And as always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. I'm Chris from Signs of Life. See you guys in the next video.